Hey everybody, welcome back to Around the Emirates podcast with Sara Mousa, where I speak to guests from across the UAE about topics you want to hear about. Today I'm joined by Daniel Leese, who is founder of SOM, the UAE's first natural skincare line for men. Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be on this side of the microphone.
It is a pleasure to have you on the side of the microphone. So I can't believe that I'm actually interviewing a man who developed a whole skincare line just for men from natural ingredients. This sounds amazing. Please tell me your story.
I've got my own podcast, and I've always been extremely fascinated about business. And what happened is I had a conversation with somebody who owned a wellness retreat in Thailand, and I've always been into grooming, but I was not really a conscious consumer, let's say. And what happened is I had this conversation during COVID with a guy that owned a wellness retreat in Thailand, and we started getting onto what they use in this wellness retreat and why it's wellness. And they started talking about how they use like coconut oils and coffee with olive oils and avocado masks and lime juice. And I'm like, why didn't you just use like skincare brands, like, or shower gels? And he's like, well, do you know what sort of ingredients they put in these products these days? And I wasn't aware of it. And, at the time I'd been, using loads of I used to use female products because there was nothing really I felt for men. And at this time, it was such a coincidence because at the time I'd been using this new oil that was like smelled amazing, but like, it really affected my skin. And I've got quite fair skin. I've always been quite lucky with that. I never really suffered when I was a kid. So it was quite a coincidence that this was I had the conversation just as I was getting quite a lot of acne from these products, not knowing that these products was causing the acne. And he said something to me. He said, if you don't understand the ingredient, then neither does your body. And that got me extremely curious about what was in my products. And I went away and I literally got all my grooming products and I put them all one by one and started putting all the ingredients in a spreadsheet. And I would search every single one. And during COVID, obviously, there was lots of stuff to do. So I was at home the whole time just researching this stuff. And first few products checked out, and then one ingredient just fell on my lap, and it just really concerned me because I was just like, I wouldn't knowingly put this on my body, let alone anybody else's. And it was an ingredient called phenoxyphenol. And phenoxyphenol is one of the most common preservatives you'll find in every single high street product. It's in shower gel, shampoo, nappies, baby wipes, you name it. So like it's in everything, but it's only approved up to 1% concentration because anything more than that is toxic to the human body, can cause nerve damage, affects the liver, kidneys, you name it. And I was like, whoa, like this is crazy. So I was super obsessed by it, carried on researching, and next thing you know, I found an emulsifier that was in paint as well as skincare. And then you'd find silicones, plastics, petrochemicals. And I was horrified. It was almost like somebody had just been lying to me my whole life. And straight away, I threw all my ingredients in the bin and I just started looking at what was good for the skin. So I started making kind of like my own face masks at home, and I would like upcycle because I love coffee. Like I literally love coffee so much. And I got my own little coffee machine at home. So I had loads of coffee powder. And what I used to do is obviously coffee is great for the skin. It's an antioxidant, helps stimulate blood flow. So there's lots of positives to it. Plus olives, there's huge benefits to olives as well. And you go back to ancient civilizations, and they were using olive oil to not just to keep their skin good. It was also good for protecting against the sun and stuff like that. So I just went proper ancient style and started making my own stuff at home. Started telling some of my friends about it, and they're like, oh, do you fancy making some for me? So I made some for my friends and they would use it in their home. And then next thing you know, like I was like getting a group of friends and they were just all getting like homemade skincare packages and self-care packages for me. And then someone said to me, they're like, why don't you actually just start your own brand? And I was like, why not? I've spoken to enough entrepreneurs by that time on my podcast to realize that the difference between the ones that do it and the ones that don't is literally that they go off and do it, and they take that chance, and that was it, and that was the starting of a 3-year journey, which took me to launching And Some Skin in October last year, 2023.
That is amazing. I mean, congratulations on finding something that is actually super important for a good amount of people. Like the fact that you have found such a massive gap in the market, and you were able to create like a wonderful opportunity out of that, and something that is so important, like our skincare, like our health. Like our health is the most important thing in our whole lives. And for you to have not only identified a massive issue that people may not even be aware of for their health, but you've also found a solution to that is remarkable. And I mean, you just said yourself, there are so many things that are so damaging to your skin that people have been potentially using without being aware of it. And in that process, I'm sure that there was challenges that you experienced to get to the success where you are today.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Lots and lots of challenges on the way, lots of sleepless nights. Because the first thing that I had to do was obviously research, and research. Because the thing is, I'd worked in, so I'm actually a trained chef by trade. So I worked in Michelin-star restaurants for a long time. And then I quickly came to realize after around 9 years in the kitchen that if I really wanted to do something with my life, it wasn't going to be in the kitchen because I worked all the time and financially wasn't the best paying job. So I actually got into the business world. And, I used to work for businesses selling services, you name it. And I'd worked in so many different businesses where I saw decisions get made that I didn't really agree with. So I always knew that whenever I created this brand, I just wanted to lead with good intentions, and it was all about the customer, and kind of like, obviously businesses need to make money, but the primary objective was to make something that's positive for the planet. Um, and for the skin. So it's like I didn't want to contribute towards creating an amazing skincare product, but then contribute towards more plastic pollution, wasting more resources. And that's why within the brand, not only do we use natural ingredients, some of our key ingredients come from recycled sources. Our tubes come from sugarcane plastic. So it's a bioplastic, we use 80% less plastic in our product packaging. We use cardboard from FSC regulated forests. We only use water-based or vegetable-based inks, so there's no toxins left in the ground once it's biodegraded. And then for every product we sell, we plant one tree in over 47 reforestation projects around the world. So that's been like, it just evolved over the last 3 years. But going back to the challenge, I think the biggest challenge that I faced was actually getting a manufacturer that really bought into the brand, because everybody just wants to sell you a white label product. And that's why nowadays, like, it kind of frustrates me when you see all these like skincare brands pop up, because ultimately, I mean, The Rock, for example, classic example, he is in the news in the States that he's just launched his own product range. And I'm not being funny, but anything that costs less than $9 is not going to have good stuff in there. And what's very common in this world is manufacturers will approach somebody and say, right, you're going to be the face for our brand. We're going to do this, X, Y, and Z. But if you look at the actual ingredient list, and obviously I've been able to educate myself over the last 3 years, I've researched medical studies on the skin. Like, I've gone into so much detail to make sure every single ingredient has a positive impact on the skin, that when you see these other brands that are launching, you understand when you see the ingredient. And even when you go into some of the websites, they won't even show the full ingredients list, because if you see the full ingredients list, you just simply
You won't
wouldn't
buy
buy
it. Yeah.
educated consumer. Yeah. So the biggest challenge was really finding somebody that understood it, because at the beginning, I honestly I was kind of like giving up hope, because I was meeting with manufacturers all over the world, and all they wanted to do was be like, yeah, but yeah, this private label stuff, like, it's okay, but because it's expensive for them, because they have to buy new ingredients and new this and new that, and the quantities, are not as much as what they can do on white label. Whereas white label, it's already in production, everybody else is using it, they can literally just stick your logo on it and off you go. So that was the biggest challenge, but thankfully, I persevered, and I met our manufacturers, and they really understood the brand. They loved what the goal of what we wanted to do, and bringing clean beauty for men. And yeah, it went from there really. And but that was the biggest challenge at the beginning. It's just actually getting people to buy into it. And at one point, like I say, I just thought it was never going to happen, but was able to persevere, and get there. I mean, I think anybody that's listening to this that's launched a brand, or a business, understands that everything is extremely hard. It's not just one thing. I mean, like, I've lost faith in service based people now, like marketers and website developers and stuff, because yeah, I've learned so much on that. But yeah, it's been an exciting journey, and it's one that I love and I feel so passionately about. You know, and I always said from the beginning, as long as one person buys it and they're happy with it, then that makes me happy.
I mean, you've covered up a lot of really important points. I mean, you've talked about the natural products and ingredients that you use that are actually very good for the skin. You've talked about the sustainability element of it, that you're not contributing to kind of climate change. You've talked about the fact that the importance of having that first follower or that first person to support you and support your ambitions. And it's so clear from the way that you talk how passionate and how just authentic you are and just how genuine you are about your product. Like you speak from the heart, which is wonderful. And of course, about this entire experience, I mean, you've gone through so many different obstacles that I'm sure that you didn't even anticipate. What was anything that kind of surprised you or something you didn't expect to happen along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the hardest parts was getting the products registered here. That was really one of the hardest parts because you have to, I mean, the UAE, like credit to them, they make sure that obviously, I mean, it surprises me how some of these products get through because the amount of information that you have to give about the products and what the ingredients lists are and stuff like that. But obviously they just check it. So, you know, anything that comes into the country has been approved by the municipality, but that was quite a challenge, but was able to eventually find a consultant that helped me navigate the portals that you have to upload all the products to. But yeah, apart from that, though, honestly, like the manufacturer side of things, and also as well the packaging, it was it's really difficult. I've met some amazing like packaging suppliers that are doing some incredible packaging along this journey. But again, that was one of the hardest parts because I had to do a lot of education on packaging itself because what I didn't realize is, when it comes to recycling, only around 67% of the world's plastics actually get recycled. And that can be down to a number of things. Number one, it can be how expensive is that plastic? Like, what can they do to resell it? Is it a good quality enough? Like, single-use plastics obviously cannot be used again. Um, and then also as well, the printing, that's one of the biggest things is, again, you don't realize as a consumer, you see a Coca-Cola tin and you think, oh, it says recycle me. So I recycle it and I think I get recycled. But what you don't realize is in all the ink is actually made from plastic. So it's impossible to recycle it. So actually educating myself on recycling, what can be recycled. I mean, there's even different types of plastics. So I mean, sorry to bore people about plastic, but on a plastic bottle, water bottle, right? So let's talk about my Dubai, for example. It's a red lid, and you got the little plastic red lid, like the little cap that fixes it on. You actually, for that to be recycled, you have to take off the red plastic from the actual single-use plastic because it's two different types of plastic. So it'll never get recycled together. So when that gets put in a plant, unless it's separated, it just goes to landfill. So all these things, like I've just learned so much about on this process, but it's nice. I love it. Like I'm a bit of a geek about it. So but yeah, every corner that I've had to turn has been a challenging one. I don't think there's been anything really easy about this process, but I kept reminding myself throughout this journey is that you know tough sorry, what's the saying? I think it's like along the hard times make tough men, and that's what it's turned me into. I've learned that everything is happening for me, not against me. Whereas I think before that, maybe I've been like, oh, this is happening for this reason and this is not fair, blah, blah, blah. But like I came to quickly realize that it was just everything is just a lesson, and it's a valuable one at that. Sometimes it comes at an expense, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, like you say, as long as you learn from it and don't make the same mistake twice, then you should be in a good place.
I love that. It is important to all like remember that you will make mistakes, but to learn from it and to kind of charge that to your own self-development. And you just mentioned yourself like how important was learning was throughout your process, and that you don't have two same days in a row, two of the same challenges in a row. So having said that, what would you say is your kind of word of advice for people out there that are trying to start their own business but might be scared to take the first step?
Whatever you do, be passionate about it and do it with conviction because entrepreneurship is one of those things that like everybody gets like people fantasize about entrepreneurship and they think that it's this thing that you just you quit your job and then you're happy and you earn loads of money and this and that and the other. And it's the opposite. You know, like the amount of money you have to spend to actually make the money is something that, you know, I was actually surprised at, because I was thinking, I've created this amazing brand. I've thought about this and that and the other. I'm going to do all these podcasts and everyone's going to love it and they're going to buy the products and stuff, which, you know, that has happened. But, you know, you do have to, you know, I mean, social media is wonderful now. Like you can get in front of so many people. I mean, I was literally getting my hair cut early on today and I was telling the lady that cuts my nails and stuff like that. She's like, because I go there quite regularly. And I was talking to her about my brand before, and then she was like, "Oh, sir, what's your brand?" And I was like, "It's called Some Skin." She's like, "Oh my God, I see the adverts on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, this thing." So you can actually reach a lot of people. But yeah, no, I think, you know, I think I've kind of like gone around a little bit here, but you know, I think just be passionate about it, because it's going to be really tough. Like the first few months, if not a year, is going to be, you know, if you've not actually like prepared yourself enough financially and mentally, then, you know, it can definitely break you. You know, I get times where I'm just sitting at home and I've just got thoughts going around in my head, you know, and you think, you know, what am I doing? Like, what can I do to improve this, and etc. And, you know, luckily we've slowly but surely made a steady growth. But, you know, if it wasn't for the fact that you know, I felt so passionately about this, that, you know, some of these days could have actually made me give up for sure.
I love that. I love that you are just showing how much, like you're showing so much of your character right now, and that you have really put your heart and soul into this brand. And it's something that does help people. It will make people feel and look better about themselves. And it's something, it's not easy to start a skincare brand for men specifically. Like obviously, like, you know, in beauty in general and skincare, that is a female dominated industry. So for you to have brought something so special and so unique to the UAE, like to the Middle East, is so beautiful. And I've really enjoyed talking to you today, Daniel, and I'm so grateful that I was able to share your story on the podcast today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on.